simple it is. Welcome everyone to a very special evening. It's not going to be one of my ordinary relationships talks tonight. This is something that we've been working on for quite a while, and I'm excited to finally be able to talk about it, to share it with you. And before we get started, I have a couple of things that I want to tell you. Firstly, we'd like to thank everyone who donated for tonight. It really helps us continue putting these fantastic evenings together. If you hadn't had a moment to donate, you can actually go to ndgraffle.com. We have a raffle that's going to be starting now. You can buy a raffle ticket, you can win $10,000, and you can support our wonderful work. If you haven't had an opportunity to make a profile yet on either jmontreal.com or jmatchmaking.com, depending on whether you're in Montreal or you're outside of Montreal, you can just use marketing code Rabbi's Gift. It's my gift to you. It's completely free. And our database now has around 58,000 singles on it. And so a lot of people have had success. Also, tonight, there's some singles here. I just heard today that a couple that met here in one of these programs got engaged today. So yeah, so what we do for these is a very simple thing. Some people are here just to learn and to grow, and they don't want anyone bothering them. So if you don't want anyone bothering you, just put NA or not available in front of your name. So that way people know, don't bother me. If you are available, you can put, oh, your age range, you can put your religious denomination, you could put your favorite food, whatever you want. And you never know, as I'm talking or Rabbi Yosh and I are talking, you may be having another conversation going on with someone else. You never know. Tonight, the sky is the limit. The world is your gefilte fish, and you never know what could happen. I was gonna say another thing, but it wasn't kosher. Okay, also, I want you to know one other thing, and that is that tonight we're going to be presenting some incredible ideas. So for the past few years, I've been working with my colleague here at Chabad and Rabbi Berkowicz, and we've been working with singles. We've been coaching them. We have been trying to help especially singles who have been dating and they want to get into a serious relationship, but they've had a difficult time getting into a serious relationship. So we have used a system. The system has been tested. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it tonight, but we're also going to be opening up 2 cohorts, one for men and one for women, 20 people each. It's going to be a very special cohort. And we're going to be doing a 6-week program. The cohort for women starts in the middle of June, and the cohort for men in the middle of July. I'm putting the links here if you want to find out more about them. And you can go through this really amazing program that is going to revolutionize the way that you date and completely change it. So I'm encouraging you to take a look at that. There's only 6 spots left in the women's program. But the men's program just launched tonight, so you will have an opportunity to join if you like. I'm going to pin Rabbi Yosh now. I'd like to welcome my colleague from Chabad and Rabbi Yosh, to the stage. For those of you who don't know him, we've been working together for almost 10 years here at Chabad and Also, he holds a master's from McGill in educational psychology. He's been working with so many singles, and really also one of the secret brains behind a lot of the stuff that we do here. And this is, I think, the first time that we're sharing the stage together for one of these events. Is that right?
Yeah, just for a few minutes here and there. I think we did one. We did something.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You did come in one of our events with Dr. Romanelli, but this is the first time that we're really sharing the stage together. And there's a reason why we're sharing the stage, because we really want to present something that is going to get you thinking. Now, I want to just say there's a couple triggers that may happen as a result of listening to some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. Number one this, we have an underlying idea. And that idea is that most of the people, most of us here that want to get into a relationship want to get into a long-term relationship. So we're going to use that as the common denominator, as the underlying idea here, that the goal is to get into a relationship that will lead to being a long-term relationship. Is that correct, Rabbi Yosh?
Long-term committed relationship. Yeah.
So let's get started. What do you think are, we talk about tonight, we're talking about the DNA of relationships. What do you think is the DNA? What is the, so, here we have, this group is a group of singles. They're not married. So why do you think that singles need to know about relationships in order to date properly?
Just before I answer that question, Rabbi, there's one, I think, important thing we should clarify about the 6-week course that you mentioned. If
Sure.
The course is being geared to people, that 6-week course is being geared to people who are doing shidduchim. I don't have a good translation for that.
Who are dating via Matchmaker?
Yeah, via Matchmaker, and through it's kind of geared for the dating process used by Chabad, by Litvish, by modern Orthodox people, right? It's a little bit of more of a controlled process. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
We're signing up, right? I think it's important. That's what.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. Yeah. So this particular cohort, we are going to have a cohort for people who are dating more secularly, as we call it. But for now, we're going to focus on these two groups specifically, and you're going to see this tonight, specifically because a lot of what we're going to be talking about is going to be taking a very different look. So if you have never dated religiously before, if you have, you're going to see something new here. If you haven't, you're also going to have a different idea for as far as what the dating process is and what is valuable. So let's go into relationships. Why we called it the DNA of healthy relationships. Why are we talking about relationships and not calling it the DNA of healthy dating?
Right. Well, so for me, I think it starts with my background in education, like you mentioned. The main paradigm in education is something called backwards design, where you start with the goal where you want to end up, and then you design the educational experience backwards from that. You start with that, and then you say, okay, if we want the learner to end up there, if that's the goal, well, how do we end up there? And you work your way backwards. So if you want dating to lead to, like we said before, a long-term and committed relationship. So what we need to know, what are the elements of a long-term committed relationship? Can we systemize that? Can we summarize it? Can we generalize it? And then can we make something that helps people date and helps them get to that result? That's the question.
That's I think a huge question, because a lot of people are not thinking about that. I mean, so there's two things here that I see, especially in my experience, talking to people and coaching people and having conversations with people about their relationships. So one thing that I see is people who are so committed to long-term relationships that they're going from 0 to 100 in a minute. Like they're like, okay, is this the right one for me? Is this the one? Okay, this could be the one. Oh my gosh, he has a nose, she has eyes. This could be it. This is amazing. And then there's the opposite. People who have no idea what to do after number one, which means the whole setup is for one moment, is for one date, is for one swipe right or swipe left, and no one's thinking anything afterwards, which means the whole system is set up.
Yeah.
So I see these two extremes. I don't see very much in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and that's why what we're looking at tonight, we're looking at in terms of stages. The number 3 has a very special significance. Things usually come in threes. So the way we've kind of systemized it, and the way I look at it, is that there are 3 major questions that need to be solved. 3, issues that need to be solved to form the DNA of a healthy relationship. And if you jump ahead of one of those questions, you're asking for trouble. If you skip,
what are those things?
right. So stage one, stage two, stage three. So stage one is attraction between personalities, which we can define in a really technical way. There's a lot of scientific research on what that means, and that's a really easy thing to define. There's tons of academic information on that, and that's really easy to do. So attraction, and when we say attraction, we're really talking about attraction as a function or as a product of two personalities, and those words all have a technical meaning we can really define. The second stage is the interaction between values, qualities, and purpose. And that's
values, qualities, and purpose, and how they interface.
Yeah, between the two people. And that's a much harder thing to talk about, just because, unfortunately, our universities don't research this as much. We have a lot of information on this from the Torah. It's a very important thing, in Judaism. But as far as like a shared technical language that we can use, there's much less research on values and things like that. And it's not as clear cut, but nevertheless, we can do it. We can have a conversation. We can talk about that stuff.
Okay. And number three?
Yeah. And then the last element that forms the DNA of a healthy relationship is, I have trouble finding a good word. I'm still debating a good word to kind of sum it up. But I would call it the ability to let yourself be hurt.
The ability to let yourself be hurt. I'm putting this in the
but it's a lot. It's so much more than that. But I think that's just a really good, it's a certain way of putting it, because people use words like vulnerability. Oh, can you be vulnerable? Can you open yourself up? Can you, it's, I guess really it should be called achieving emotional intimacy. But I want to put that in words that are very visceral that people can understand. And the only way you're going to achieve emotional intimacy is the ability to let yourself be hurt. And that's really what it means, in fact. So I just prefer to call it that.
As we get into this, I encourage you to open a document on your computer, to pull out a pen and paper. We're going to talk about some stuff that you probably have never heard about. Some of it is going to be science-based. Some of it's going to be Judaism-based tonight. Also, if you have any questions as we're talking about it, put it into the chat. You can even just direct message me. You can literally just chat. You can just go direct message so nobody else can see it. And if you have a question, either I'll answer it during the class, or when we get to the Q&A in about a half an hour, I will answer it, or either of us will answer it then. So let's talk about attraction. Attraction is huge because most people are using, let's start with picture. They're using picture as a way to be able to navigate the system. Whether you're dating in a religious environment where it's resumes and profiles, or you're dating in a secular environment where you're swiping, it's a picture. What's the problem, or not the problem, the pro of using pictures?
Well, I think that pictures are easily misused. The truth is, I don't want to go into much. There's a lot of differences between different kinds of people and what's important to them, when it comes to, like, you're talking about the visual aspect, the superficial aspects. For me, when you're talking about pictures, the important question is, how do you use it properly? Right?
That's a great question.
How do you use it properly?
How do you use it properly?
Right. So, for example, these days, even amongst the religious dating, right? I looked up my wife on Facebook before I met her, when we were dating, right? As what kind of a person is she, and what do you learn from that? And so there were certain things about, let's say different pictures that were on Facebook that actually helped me say yes to date her, which I'm very happy about that. And for me, the key was, what is a picture? A picture is not just what somebody looks like. If you want to use a really morbid kind of comparison to this, there's, if you're not attracted, if you're a healthy person, okay, you're not attracted to a picture of a dead person. All right, it's very morbid. There's something wrong with you, right? I see some reactions from the people in the video, right?
Oh my gosh, that's extremely
Right?
morbid.
There's something wrong with you if that's the case. Why? Why is there something wrong with you? Why? If there's something wrong, it's considered like an illness, and there's a very good reason for that, because we are attracted to more than the body when we look at somebody. Okay, there are millions of data points that we collect when we look at somebody, whether it's a picture, whether it's a video, whether it's a person. Okay, there's a huge amount of information that we don't realize, that our brain processes about the person we're looking at. And so, I remember Rabbi Bernath and I were just, playing around preparing for this class, and we were discussing this, and he's like, well, if you look at pictures of people that are considered attractive, they're all posing a certain way, in a certain way. And the way they're posing is communicating a huge amount of information. And if you actually, look into how, these kind of pictures work, it's like there's an enormous amount of pictures and preparation that get to catch that moment of something being communicated, which is really alluring. And so that's the key.
Here, I want to show them. I just Googled attractive people. Look at what came up. I just literally Googled attractive people. Like, look at all these pictures.
Right, and you have like the scientific ones, right, where it's just like a flat expression, and that's what they use for scientific research. But other than that, it's kind of like there's something being communicated about the person in that picture. There's something that they're communicating which has to do with their state of being at that moment. And so a picture is a frozen moment of a person's state of being. And so the picture, one of the pictures that was, let's say, when I was researching, should I date the person who became my wife? There's a picture of her, when she was on this incredible vacation and she was so happy. And I said, wow, that is a state of happiness. That is a state of being that I want the person I married to be capable of. When they're happy, that's what I want them to look like. I want them to be that happy, because I'm not capable of getting that happy. I'm kind of flat. And wow, that's like really special, And so I think that, it's really important for us to look at the understanding that it's a moment in time that's being taken. Sometimes a really bad moment in time. Sometimes like people look weird because that's just how pictures are. And we have to look at the element of personality that's being communicated in that moment. So
just to sum up this particular part of our talk, if I were to put a picture on a profile, what is the ideal picture for me to put in order to be able to be attractive?
Well, it's for me, it's about, are you communicating something about yourself that's real and that's true? Right. So the thing that was being communicated in that picture of the woman who become my wife was the fact that she has a lot of emotional range, and I'm quite emotionally stable. It's opposites, and I'm like, wow, I really like that. I like seeing that this person has emotional range. That's what the picture told me. And that's one of the 5 objective factors of personality.
So let's talk about these 5 objective factors of personality that come into play when it comes to this first level of attraction. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
Yeah. So if there's a lot of different systems understanding personality. And the first idea here that's really important is that we have to understand that, attraction between 2 people is a product of their personalities. Right. And that's a big statement in and of itself. We could argue about that, but that's kind of one of the assumptions we're going to have to go with. Because if we're going to fully argue that out, if you want to flesh it out, that would be in the course. We'll spend an hour talking about that. But for now, I have to go with this assumption that attraction between 2 people we call chemistry is a product of their personality. Now, what's a personality? Right? That has a definition too, right? So personality is a constellation of behaviors. It's not a box that you lock a person into, that they have to be a certain way. And it's just, the best way we can understand it is that it's a pattern of behavior that applies a lot of the time. Their behavior mostly falls within a certain range. It can also sometimes fall outside of that range, but it's kind of like it's a pattern that they fall into. And personalities don't change very quickly. They could change, but they change very slowly. throughout a person's lifespan. And there's a huge amount of research being done on this. And so there's all kinds of different personality systems out there. And, every time you go on Facebook, like which of the friends are you from Friends, or which of the this, or which, all that, there's only one kind of gold standard that's been empirically backed up for personality. And that's called the big five factors of personality. And when you understand, oh, there we go. Thank you so much for making that a lot easier for me. That explains. And when you understand what these are, you see that you can actually analyze a person. You can analyze a dating profile. You can see these like really, really clearly. Okay. Now, this that you're looking at. This is the OCEAN acronym you have there. OCEAN, if you read it from top to bottom. This is such a powerful tool. And I've actually done this with married couples, right? Rabbi Bernath, actually Alessandra experienced this. Alessandra, who's here now, she experienced this in an event we did once. I've actually done this with couples where I can assess two people's personality scores on the five factors and look for where the big differences are. Like look for where one person is on one side and the other person is really different on that factor. And then I can tell the couple, well, I've never met you before, but here are the things that you argue about. And it works. It's really scary. All right. That's what I call the personality conflicts, which are okay. Personality conflicts are not a bad thing necessarily. It depends. So, and it's kind of scary. And I've had rooms full of people being like, how do you know that we argue about that? I've done it a few times with different groups of people, and it's very consistent. I can even kind of predict what kind of job a person has using this. This is used extensively in assessment for what kind of people should do what kind of jobs. So, but anyway, yeah. So, Rabbi, do you want to ask me a specific question about this, or?
No, I want to just kind of, obviously we're talking about a very important range, and it's something you can also look up. Just look up the big five personality traits, and you can see this. And people are going to end up on different ranges. You're not going to be, we actually have a test that we created that we can send you as well if you want to find out where you fit into this. And what's fascinating about it, this is one of our secrets of matchmaking, is often you are going to find someone who's in the opposite range, which means if you are, they call low score or high score, they just do that. It's scientific. I don't like some of the scientific terms they give to it, but it's just for the sake of the science of it. But you will find if you are someone, let's say the first one is openness to experience. So someone who has a low score, someone who's practical, conventional, prefers routine, the person who likes everything the same, that's an extreme version of someone with a low score. We call them closed to experience. Someone who has a high score is someone who's curious, has a wide range of interests, independent, they're open, they have an imagination, they're really broad. Often a match, again, this is one of five, but a match is going to be someone who's more in the prefers routine, in the box kind of person, will like and be attracted to someone who is a little more out of the box, a little more likes new experiences. And that is a balance. It's not always that way. It could be that they could both be in the middle, but often these people will be on one or the other range. Even the next one which is called conscientiousness. So someone with a low score is someone who's impulsive or careless or disorganized, where someone who has a high score is someone who's hardworking and dependable and organized. Funny enough, these are qualities that are complementary. We don't call them opposites. We call them complementary to each other, because these two qualities together will make a whole unit. Remember, in Judaism, we truly believe that you and your soulmate are two halves of a whole. So here you can see the science backing up this Jewish idea of two halves of a whole. I mean, we like it, it's so romantic, it's so wonderful, two halves of a whole. But there's actual science here where we can see that these two people who have complementary elements can very easily be matched up. The other one is extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism.
Yeah.
And again, in the course, we're going to go through these in great detail, but I just wanted you to see this tonight so that you can already start seeing that you don't have to live in a world of a guessing game. You don't have to live in a world where I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't even know who I am. We actually have a very simple questionnaire that you can fill out. And if you want, you can message me. You have my email, because if you got on here, I must have emailed you. You can just message me and I will send you that questionnaire. You can find out where you score. And that's going to help you understand where the person that perhaps you're going to want to be in a relationship with long-term is going to score.
Yeah. And also, I just want to clarify one or two things you're talking about. So there are couples, we've met couples that we've assessed that had all 5 personality things the same. And then there are couples like me and my wife who are opposites on all 5. And that's why I'm an expert on all 5 conflicts, because I've experienced them all myself and I can act them out. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
that's going to be a lot of fun in the course as well. We're going to do a lot of role playing.
That's right. Me and Rabbi will argue a little bit for everyone. So yeah, so everybody ends up with a different mix. Now, how do you know what mix is right for you? Sometimes the kind of personality that makes a good coworker is not the same. Sometimes the personality that makes a good coworker for you is not the same as a good friend, and it's not the same as what will be a good spouse, right? Because let's say if you're very conscientious, you might need to work with someone else who is also very conscientious, and you might like your friends to be conscientious. But when it comes to living with a spouse, someone who's conscientious might end up being boring. It's possible. And so you might need a spouse who is not so conscientious. Now, unfortunately, the science is a little bit negative. You look at the words, the person who's not so conscientious, they're disorganized, and it's kind of a negative connotation. But that's not the case at all, right? Because people who are not so conscientious are free-flowing, improvisational, lots of fun. I'm not conscientious, I'll be honest with you. That's just not my personality. And whatever, it's the way it is. So I've had to find all the good things about it, and my wife, who's very
someone just asked a question that I think is a great example of how it's like a double-edged, I'm not going to say a double-edged sword, but a double-edged element, which is, the question is, but wouldn't that drive you crazy later? His disorganization makes you upset.
Yeah, if you're, everybody's different. So for some people, it's like intolerable and it will not work. And you'll know, you spend time with that person. And if I'll talk about how in a minute. There's a pretty simple question to ask, right? To figure this out. It's not hard. But, sometimes you might be a conscientious person and you just are going to find yourself being attracted and enjoying spending time with the man or woman who is not conscientious. And here's the thing. The most important thing, the stage 1 has a question that has to be answered. The question that has to be answered is, do I really enjoy spending time with this person? Because at the end of the day, what is marriage but spending a lot of time in a room with somebody else? If you don't really enjoy being in a room with another person, forget about it, as they say in Brooklyn. It doesn't even get past stage 1. You don't have to enjoy spending time with your roommate or with your coworker, but you have to enjoy spending time with your spouse.
So to the person who is trigger happy, who just wants to meet the person and just go right to the chuppah, to that person we say, relax. All we want to know in the first date or the first meeting is, do I want to see this person again? And to the person who's not sure what they're doing, we say the same thing, relax. You're not worried about what's going to happen later or what's not going to happen. The question you need to ask yourself during the first date is, do I want to see this person again? That's it.
Right. Yeah, because that's the definition of attraction. The word attraction means, am I pulled like a magnet? Am I pulled towards that person? And also, are they pulled towards me? And that's the people we enjoy being with. If I enjoy being with that person, I want to spend more, I want to spend time with them more. And you don't, at the beginning, that's the only question that needs to be answered. That question is going to be answered mostly on the basis of their personality.
I want to show you something. In the beginning of tonight's talk, we asked a question, and I have a beautiful little word cloud here. The question was, how do you, this is to the participants here tonight, how do you define attraction in 1 or 2 words? And look at what we got.
Yeah, so there are things about physical looks and desire, but the big one is chemistry. And what we're giving you guys, just like chemistry, it's not magic. You know, there are elements and there are, you know, there's a whole science behind it, and you can predict what is going to react with what and what's going to be the catalyst and all that. So also here, we're kind of, what we're trying to say at the end of the day is there's a certain science to this, to the chemistry, and that's what attraction is. And it makes you want to spend time with the person, and you can track it, you can be conscious of it. And that's, you know, that's the key. You can be aware of it, and it'll really help you date, and it'll help you understand why you like people and why you want to spend time with them.
I want to focus on a few more things here in this word cloud, because I think it's fascinating. I mean, chemistry obviously is huge. It means that a lot of people said it. Connection, we understand. Desire. What do you think about desire?
I think
is that really attraction? Desire, is that like curiosity? What is desire?
Yeah, desire is complicated. Desire is like, I think, is already a stage 3 thing. You know,
okay.
It's, you know, I mean, yeah, I think it's like it's almost a difficulty if you're talking about desire based on the way somebody looks, and you know, from date 1 and date 2, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That can also get in the way. That can also cloud.
I think that would be interesting also for us. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting you, but I think it'll be interesting also for us to take a couple of these and put them in the right categories. Because one of the things that is very important, and one of the things that we're revolutionizing in the system, is that we're going to divide it into 3 categories, into 3 stages of dating. So that way you know where you're holding at any given stage. So that way you can see yourself and you can see the process of how the relationship can evolve properly, instead of just it happening. So like happy is a big word. Do we put that into stage 1? Is that attraction?
Yeah. Are you enjoying spending time with that person? Are you happy when you're with them? I think. You know,
okay.
Sure.
Here's a rough one, because this also is bigger than a lot of the other ones. Looks.
Yeah, well, I think that looks, like I was saying before, has a lot to do with a person's personality, has a lot to do with their looks. And that was my dead body analogy. If you have a beautiful person and they're not alive, but you know, whatever, unfortunately, then you know, it's not like, it's like, you know, it's not alive. It's the soul that is attractive, that comes through the looks of the person. That's what I think. And you know, everybody's different, so there's a lot of different things out there, and it's not something we can wade into right now, but it does form part of this for sure at the beginning.
You know, I was thinking about looks.
Yisroel, you got the wrong thing open. You're looking, what are you looking for?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I was just emailing someone who can't get on. I apologize for those of you who are watching my email. Okay. People are, as this is going on, people are emailing me. I can't get on. Okay. So a couple of years ago, I set up a couple, and I was very involved in the back and forth of the dating. That's what they had asked me to do. So I was very involved in the back and forth of the dating. And at the end of the day, they had been dating a while. And one thing came down when it came to physical looks. He had a problem with her nose. And it was a very complicated thing. And everything else was checking out. There was chemistry, there was connection, everything was good. He just didn't like her nose. And he spoke to me about it, and I said to him, why don't I talk to her? Why don't I ask her? Anyway, I spoke to her, and she said, is that really? I mean, I don't like my nose either. You know what? I'll take care of it. Surgery can help. I'll take care of it. If that's the big deal, if that's what's stopping him, I'll take care of it. I don't like it either. This is about 3 years ago. I was talking to them about 3 months ago about something totally different. And I asked him because I had seen that, I knew that, and I brought it up. I'm like, you've been married for like 2.5 years, and I see that you never did anything. And she looks at him, and we were having a conversation. She looks at him, she's like, yeah, you're right. I promised you I'd get that surgery. I never got it. He's like, no, don't do that. I love your nose.
Nice. Anyway, should we move on?
No, but it was fascinating to me because I experienced that the one thing that he hated, that he didn't want to marry her over, became the exact thing. And he's like, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big subject. But I want to.
So attraction is.
Yeah, exactly.
Very complicated.
Much more than that. Yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, 100%.
Yes. Something to really think about. Okay, so let's go into stage 2. Stage 2 is where the science is not on our side. This values, qualities, and purpose. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, there's not as much here. This isn't. This is a lot more complicated. There's a lot more variation. Unfortunately, this isn't something we can break down into 5, easy elements that we can test for, and this is
Right.
where things get really interesting. So what I've begun to understand is that, right, well, let's talk about values first, right? And actually, I saw that in the word cloud. Somebody did mention shared values, right? So what is a value? Put it in the chat. What's a value? Define it. Everybody, put it in the chat. Throw it on there. Let's get some participation. Define what a value is.
What is a value?
Wait about 20 seconds. Think of it, type it.
I see a belief system.
Belief system.
It's a big stuff. And I cannot make
A belief system.
Okay.
Somebody just personal messaged me. A moral consciousness.
A moral consciousness. Okay. I see value, a belief that you cherish and hold dear and wouldn't give up theoretically. Rules, something learned from elders. A moral barometer, something you appreciate. A principle. What do you think of these?
Yeah, they're all part of it. Importance. There you go. So
something that's important to me and to others.
Yeah. Define who you are. Wow.
A way of behaving in the world.
Very good.
Define who you are. Yes. So.
All right. So values. Let's if we actually put all these together, right? So Brian said something learned, and that's an important thing. So personality, which was stage 1, is usually considered to be something that is just the way you are. I mean, it's something inborn, and it doesn't change very easily, right? You don't expect to just wake up one day and change your personality. But as Brian said, one important idea of values is that they're learned. Okay, so this is an intellectual thing. There's something that are based on the way somebody else said your belief system, your morals, right? They have to, has to do with the things that you've learned, the things that you've been taught, right? Are the things that create your value system. And a value system is, what do you put essential value into? What are the things that you consider to be valuable in and of themselves, right? So if you grew up in a very religious home, you've been taught in a Jewish home, let's say, the way, let's say how I teach my kids, that a mitzvah is something that has essential value. It's an end in and of itself, right? So that's something that I teach my kids. But in every home, it's different, right? And we're all taught different things that have essential value, right? And they're all abstract concepts. They start off as abstract concepts, and we're taught them through the concrete experiences that we have.
Right.
So that's what value is, just anything that you put value into because of what you believe, and that can actually change quite quickly. And
so if it's a negotiable, or let's say if it's a non-negotiable, you put value in it, doesn't that mean that a lot of things have to be negotiated as well in order for you to have that value?
Yeah, well, we're constantly negotiating our values, most of them anyway, right? Especially, a lot of people, a good example is with like COVID, right? Everyone has different things that they value. How far do you value safety versus adventure, right? Which might be based on your personality partially, but it's also based on your belief system.
Right.
And so, and when you're someone who's a little bit values the safety aspect, a little less comes in for a hug, right? That's a good example. Well, how do you negotiate this value with that person, right?
Right.
If you have family members who's comfortable doing this and who's comfortable at your it's just a kind of a thing that came up that everyone I think has experienced a lot recently, where you're negotiating constantly a value.
Right.
So you have most values are being negotiated constantly, and especially when you marry somebody, you're going to be negotiating those values constantly. We'll get into that a little later. And then there are some values that are non-negotiable, and not all of them are relevant to the marriage, honestly, right? If a person comes to me with a list of 10 non-negotiable values and they say, I need my spouse to agree with me about all of these, I'm going to tell that person there's no such person in the world. And if there is such a person in the world, you're not going to be attracted to them. It's just,
I think that what ends up happening, especially as we get older and as we are in the dating process longer, is we have more non-negotiable values. And as a result, that's why it's so much more complicated for us to find someone, because we do have more non-negotiables.
I mean,
the younger we are,
I'm not old enough to say.
We are, the less what?
I'm not old enough to say.
Right.
I think maybe sometimes people become more negotiable because they start to understand what really matters.
You would hope that, but if you're alone for a long time, there's certain things that you're used to. You have a certain quality of life that you're used to, and as a result, that factors into your non-negotiables.
Yeah. So everybody has different things that they consider to be innately valuable, some of which are quite negotiable and some of which are not. And then I've developed this math equation, which is that personality, that we talked about before, times values equals qualities. And that's where you start to really understand the person. So I'll use myself as an example here, right? So like I told you guys before, I'm not terribly conscientious, which means that my personality pattern is that I tend towards improvisation. I tend towards less order. I tend towards, take things easy sometimes, right? I can, people will sometimes be surprised. Like, okay, I had a graduation from a cohort this morning and I had a speech to write. I wrote it as it was starting, right? And I'm very clear about that. Like, that's just how I roll. I think it was great. I think it turned out great, but it was kind of, improvised and done there. So that's me. Now, does that mean that I'm really irresponsible? Does that mean that I'm not a good person to be around? Does that mean that, what does it mean? Well, it's mediated. My personality is going to be mediated by the way I was taught to value things. So my mother recognized that I had that personality trait as a young kid, and she made sure to instill in me certain values, the value of other people's time. She instilled in me how big of a deal it is that you have to value other people's time too, and you have to respect them. And so I became a person who is not very conscientious, but who tries really hard when someone else is waiting for me, when it really matters. I'm a person who tries really hard to get there, even though it's not natural. And when you take those two things together, I'm a person who's naturally free-flowing and improvisational and not like precise and, oh, it's at 8:40, you're there at 8:39. Not that kind of person. And then I was taught to value other people's time, and I really strive for that. So that creates a fuller picture. That's what I call value times personality. You put those two together, and now you can describe my quality. It's a really detailed thing. Somebody who's free-flowing and easygoing, but also really values other people's time and strives to respect it, despite my easygoing self. Right? And that's what I call a quality. That's a really thorough, really deep understanding of another person, right? And that's stage two. Stage two is you take the person's personality, you multiply it by their values, and you see, well, just because this guy, is really, not conscientious, does that mean he gets parking tickets and, accumulates thousands of dollars of debt, and is totally irresponsible? That's a values question. Even if you have that personality, your values are going to define whether that's how you express it, or were you taught to value money and not get thousands of dollars into debt and get parking tickets because you're not paying attention, right? If you value money, you're going to make sure, even if you're not conscientious, you're going to make sure to take care of that and not have those issues. And so that's how you figure out the qualities. And when you're looking at another person's qualities, just as like stage one had a major question that had to be answered. So stage one, the question was, am I attracted to this person? Meaning, do I enjoy spending time with them? Do I want to spend more time with them? The question of stage two, the essential question that has to be answered is, do I respect that person? I think that's the key question.
Do I respect that person?
Do they have qualities? Do their qualities combine that I respect them? That's the key question.
Even for a woman? And again, I'm just generalizing here, but often depending on the role that the different people are going to take different roles in the relationship. The person who's going to take the dominant role, do they need to respect the person who's taking the non-dominant role in the relationship?
Even more. They need to respect them even more, of course. Otherwise, you run into major issues of control and full domination of one person.
And the other way around?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it'll be a little easier, but I think everybody here knows this, right? Especially people who've been around the block and, been in and out of relationships. And, respect, everyone says this. Respect is a fundamental quality of any high quality relationship. And how do you define it? Who do you respect? You respect people whose qualities you respect people whose qualities demand respect of you. And their qualities are a product of their personality and their values. When you put those together, you get quality. They say that's a person who I respect, and that's a person who you can pass stage two with and move on to stage three. You have to be attracted, which is the love. Let's call it. It's not really love in the deep sense of the word. It's the superficial love, love in the Kabbalistic sense, which we understand to be attraction. And then you have to analyze, and then you have to look at, do I respect them? Do I respect their qualities? And we're running short on this part of our program. So I want to just kind of get into the third part, because I think it's a fascinating part. So we have the attraction, we have the values and qualities. What is the stage three? Right. So stage three, we talked about it before as being this idea of, am I ready to allow myself to be hurt by this person, with this person? Are we ready to hurt each other? And it's a really kind of crazy way of putting it, but it's well, what? what am I talking about? Let's take a step back here. What's going on here? So the goal of stage three is, am I okay? Am I ready to be hurt by this person? Do I accept the fact to be vulnerable, to allow myself to be hurt by this person? That's the question that has to be answered in stage three. How do you answer that question? That is the question, because that's the definition of commitment. Why are people scared of commitments, right? And stage three is when you're getting ready to commit. You're making the decision, am I going to commit to this? Why are people scared of commitments? If people who are afraid of commitment, why are they afraid? I think they're afraid of commitment because you can get hurt. When you commit to somebody, you're opening yourself up to be hurt by that person. You're making yourself vulnerable to them, and you're giving them the keys to the inner sanctum, where they could theoretically do a lot of damage, and honestly, they probably will to some extent. And that's how relationships go. We find me a married couple who says, "Oh yeah, we've never hurt each other by accident or on purpose." What Dr. Romanelli calls normal marital sadism. It's normal. Normal marital sadism, right? One of my favorite concepts. So I'm giving this person the keys. I'm giving them access, and so yeah, trust is a big thing that comes in here. So that's the commitment. And
how do you know? How do you know that you're ready for stage 3? What's the question that you ask?
Well, again, the question was, am I okay? Am I ready to accept that I could be hurt by this person? So the way that you, do I trust them with that? Do I trust them handing them the keys to be able to hurt me? The way you answer that question is by starting to show them your true self, your inner core self, beyond those 2 layers, beyond your personality, beyond your values, showing them your true inner emotional state, your core of a person. And what that is, okay? So Jung called it the shadow, right? This is your Jungian shadow. Or if you've read about that, if you know about that, good. If you need a more practical definition, so I'll tell you, it's the thoughts that go through your head that you're afraid to share with other people. Those inner thoughts that run through your mind, like, oh my God, I can barely believe that I think that I thought that, and I'll never tell anybody that thought, right? Like, unless you're one of those people who's really out and just like shares everything, if you've reached that level, but that's what it is, right? So your brain has these thoughts that you don't share with other people. You have these feelings, these inner emotions that you don't share with other people. And when you meet the right person, the person who's past stage 1 and stage 2, stage 3 is when I start revealing, I take down those walls and I start taking down those filters, and I start saying the things that I never say, that are the thoughts that run through my head, my shadow, and that I would never normally share with anybody else. I start to share those things. Well, how does the other person react? Right? Do they hurt me with it constantly? Right? Do they bash it? Do they judge it? Or do they accept it? Do they hear me? Do they appreciate that? Does it make our relationship worse, or does it make a relationship better? And people are afraid to share it. Oh, what if he doesn't like me? What if she doesn't like me? Well, listen, you don't want to walk on eggshells for your entire life, do you? You're going to be spending a lot of time with this person. You don't want to have to filter yourself all the time, right? You want to just be able to be yourself. You don't want to have those filters. It takes time in a marriage, but you want to be able to just say what's on your mind. You want to be able to share your inner self, okay, and not be judged for it. And so if if the other person doesn't accept that part of you, then it's probably not the right match. You haven't passed stage 3, and don't be afraid to share it, because if they don't like you, that part of you, if it doesn't work, then you don't want to hide that and get married and then find that you don't really have the ability to get intimate with that person, that you can't really be vulnerable with them, because it's no good. That's how you develop emotional intimacy. So once you've passed stage 1 and 2, you can't be scared of that anymore. And ideally, if you've done stage 1 and 2 properly, stage 3 should work just fine. It really should. It's supposed to work. I can't promise.
So as we close this part of our session, let's just summarize. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. What are the questions you ask? What are they? And just a quick summary for us.
So stage 1, again, is the question of attraction. And the question is, do I enjoy just spending time with this person? So not because we, did something fun, could we just sit in a room with nothing to do and just have a good time? That's the question of 1. Do we enjoy each other's company, right? And if you enjoy that, you will start to feel the pull towards that person. You'll want to spend more time with them, right? That's the simple definition of attraction. And that's based on usually your personality factors. Stage 2, the question to answer is, do I respect this person? Are they good for me? Is this healthy, right? Do we share some values, right? That we didn't get into detail. There are some values that need to be shared, some a lot that don't. Even if they're not shared, Are they close enough to be compatible? Can we negotiate our values well? Right, those are all the details, and all of that comes together to be, do I respect this person's qualities? We didn't even get into purpose, which is like a whole other subject. We're not going to go there now. It's a big one, but you know, and so that's the question of stage 2. And stage 3 is the question of, am I ready to give this person the ability to hurt me? Do I trust them? Can I commit to them? And the way you know that is by revealing your shadow, showing them your dark side, showing them the stuff you don't share with other people, playing with them. Play is a big element of it, right? Your shadow is actually very playful. And seeing if you can play, that's a big one. And how do they react? And are they okay with it? And does it work? And if it works, and if you hand them the keys, you reveal them the truth about what's in there, and it works out okay, and they don't beat you up for it. So that shows trust.
Amazing. Thank you, Rabbi Yosh, Rabbi Berkowicz, for being here with us tonight and for sharing this. And for those of you who didn't hear this in the beginning, I'll say it again, that Rabbi Berkowicz and I are going to be presenting this in great detail. What you heard tonight was 1 hour. This is going to be 6 90 to 120 minute sessions. We're going to have 2 groups, one for men, one for women, and it's going to be specifically geared to people who are dating in what we call the Shidduch, or the matchmaking system. And it's going to be really going through, we're going to do it as a cohort, as an experiential experience. We have 6 spots left for the women, and we have 18 spots because we just launched it tonight for the men. So we have 18 spots left for the men. And the only reason why we have more spots for the men is because we launched it tonight, and the one for the women we launched 2 weeks ago. The one for the women is going to be starting on June 16th, and the one for the men on July 15th. So it's a great opportunity. We're only doing 20 people in each session. Once it's full, it's full. I just put the link in the chat if you want to join us. And now we are going to move over to our Q&A. I know that there's a lot of questions coming in privately. I'm sure you have some as well. So we're going to go through questions that came in already, and you're welcome to put questions in the chat. And once we're done answering the questions from the chat, we'll allow some people to unmute themselves and ask as well. Okay, firstly, is admire the same thing as respect?
Is admiration the same thing as respect? I think it goes hand in hand. It's meaning, whenever you talk about 2 words, that's like a Venn diagram, right? They have a circle, right? So the admiration circle and the respect circle are 2 different circles. They have a lot of overlap. So people who you respect, very often you will admire, and vice versa. Theoretically, there could be someone who you admire who you don't respect. So there could be someone who you respect who you don't really admire. It's not always overlapped, but there is a considerable overlap between those 2 concepts. And so very often the person who you respect, whose qualities you respect, there will be some things that you admire about them, but it's not exactly the same thing. It's not exactly the same.
I would agree with that. So you're dating a guy. Here's a question from a woman coming in. You're dating a guy and things are going well, and he's not sharing his inner thoughts and feelings, and you want him to.
Yeah, so what do you do? That's the question.
What do you do? Yeah.
So there's something called a beautiful concept from our friend Dr. Romanelli called self-validated intimacy, where you share yourself, right? You do that process. You start to share your inner self, regardless of what the other person is doing. Doesn't matter what they're doing. You do it. It's self-validated, not other validated. So
you're modeling the behavior that you want to see in the other.
Yeah, and then you can encourage them to. You can see.
So often we're looking for other validation. I definitely can relate to that. We're looking for other validation, like, what did you think about it? How did I do? I'm reading this amazing book, and the author was saying, this author was a very famous person, and she's interviewed the most famous people, from presidents to, it's Oprah. And she's interviewed everybody. And she said, no matter who the person is, she writes in the book. No matter who the person is, as great as they are, the first question they ask after the interview is, how did I do?
Yeah.
That's how powerful. Barack Obama, she said, right after his interview with her, said, how did I do?
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
So that other validation is so strong. So if you have a problem and you don't like that in the other person, so you have the self-validation, you just do it. And either they're going to be in a relationship with you and they're going to respond, or we're not in a relationship and we're not going to respond. And that's the end of it, right?
Yeah. Well, no, like I said, there's you doing it, and then you can also talk to the other person, right? You can talk about, not in a negative way, not in a, not demanding, but like, I feel like there's more of you. I want to know, more of what's really going on in there. I feel like, there's part of you that you're hesitant to share, and I want to know that part of you, right? And you can encourage it in a really positive way. And sometimes that's what people need. They need a little other validated, So hopefully, if you can start being the self-validated one, maybe the other person needs a little encouragement. There are some men, unfortunately, as people in general, but it is a little bit more common now, I think, with men now sometimes have this issue of people are scared to share this part of them, to share their inner emotional self, their true self. They're scared to, in this world. It's a scary thing to do, and they might need a little encouragement. But if they can't do it, and it goes on, and like they can't, like, it's a problem. They might need to go to therapy. They might need some help. So it's a really important thing to do.
Especially if someone's been hurt, they're going to have that. It's going to be that much harder for them to share.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it's okay. You just have to validate that.
It's very often, it's very true, and we'll go into that in the full course. What goes wrong. One of the things that goes wrong is trauma. Trauma is a major factor in people not wanting to let another person in.
Yeah, absolutely. The 3 stages are great. Someone says, is there a timeline that you would recommend for these stages?
Yeah, well, it depends on your dating style. So it depends who I'm talking to. Like, so for instance, in Lubavitch dating, what I did, what Rabbi Bernath did, it happens pretty quickly, so it could have, it's like 2 or 3 dates per stage. So between 6 and 10 dates for the whole thing. It's a very condensed timeline, but again.
So in that very religious dating system, what would you say after you should be into stage 2 by the 3rd date?
3rd, 4th, 5th max, like,
and then stage 3. And stage 3 doesn't need to be very long, right? Especially to know that you're ready to get married.
No, 1 or 2 dates, in that system. Yeah. If you're more Western,
what if you're more secular? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like to call it Western dating. I don't think it's secular because it's not really about. I like to call it Western style dating. In Western style dating, it might take, translate dates to just change the word dates to months. So the whole thing could take from 6 to 10 months. Maybe a month or 2 to kind of work through each one.
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
It doesn't need longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody wants to ask a question, you're welcome to come up on the stage. Just raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage here. If you don't want us to record while you're on stage, that's fine as well. Out of privacy, we care about that as well. We have more questions coming in. So while you're waiting to raise your hands and come up on stage, I'll ask some of the other questions coming in. When I ask him a question, this person says, and he then asks me first, what do you think? What I would like to hear is what he has to say, but he deflects. I'm questioning my respect of him. Your thoughts?
Can you say the part again?
So basically, to summarize her question, she's saying when he says, what do you think, as a response, she thinks it's a deflection. And she's questioning her respect for him because of that.
Okay, so a specific. We're not gonna dispense relationship advice to a specific situation without really getting into the details. So if somebody wants to come on and we have to have a back and forth and really dig into a relationship, we can turn off the recording if it's private.
Unfortunately, she says, I'd love to, but my mic is not working.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So,
Yeah.
because it's very dangerous if we're going to start, telling you this or that and without asking, because values and qualities are so complicated, right? If it was a
Yes.
personality thing, it's cut and dry. it could be figured out pretty easily. But when it comes to values, like they're really subtle, really complex, and you have to like really understand the situation. It's not something I'd want to, But at the end of the day, if you want to give it a general rule, if there's something that you're feeling you don't respect there, if you're something about right, then you need to talk to somebody. And that's an important, fundamental philosophy tree to get into, having, a friend to talk to and a mentor to talk to, and that's it, and not asking the whole world, about it.
Something I'm very passionate about, and I can't stress this enough, that when you're dating, there needs to be 2 or maybe 3 people that are giving you advice, that know about the dating. The first person, if you're dating with a matchmaker, which I highly recommend matchmakers, because a lot of the issues that happen in the dating process can be eliminated by having a proper matchmaker, not someone. So there's 2 different types of matchmakers. There's the matchmaker who makes the introduction, and there's the matchmaker who follows the process with you in the dating process. So I'm saying a matchmaker who follows the process, and that matchmaker's job is to believe that this match is going to work, that it's the greatest thing that has ever happened since sliced challah, that the greatest thing that's ever happened to the world is this match. Someone's got to believe that. Someone's got to believe that. So that's the matchmaker's job. The matchmaker's job is to nudge you and push you along and say, why haven't you proposed, idiot? That's the matchmaker's job. And then there's 2 people on each side. Each person has 2 people. The matchmaker's on both sides, because the matchmaker is dealing with both people. The 2 people are a friend and a mentor. The mentor's job is top down, which means you ask the mentor for advice and you listen to the mentor. You can't just take it as a survey. It's not a good idea. Your mentor is someone who you ask and you listen to, even if you don't like what they say, because God will give them the ability to say the right thing. Your friend is the person who is on your equal, who's on your same level, who you can talk it out, who you can battle it out with, who gives you that perspective. And that's it. Because so often when we're dating, my gosh, I hear people getting advice from random person they met on a bus. Why are you telling some story to some random person because you have no one to talk to, that you met on a bus or that you met in a random place and that person gave you advice? It's not a survey. And again, these are such important elements when it comes to the dating process. And I really can't stress that enough. More questions coming in. So the 3 stages apply to friendships and colleagues, so that they can turn into romantic relationships. Can you use them to turn? I don't know if this is a good question.
Okay, I call it conscious dating because they're not a weapon to be used. They're things. These are the things that happen naturally to be aware of. And yes, while we're talking about shidduchim and being matched up, sometimes it happens by accident. But when it happens by accident, you still, that's the thing, you still want to be careful and be aware and be conscious of it, because it's lovely. Yeah, you can meet somebody somewhere and it's like the first thing that's going to happen is the interaction of the personalities. It's a coworker or somebody, and can it develop? And so you want to follow that, right? It's the same process, but yeah, okay, we have a kind of personalities that has chemistry, that I like this, I want to spend more time with them, they want to spend more time with me. And then,
the fear of that is when it happens when you don't expect it, is you may end up with stage 3 before stage 1.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful. So it may explode because of that. Stage 3 shouldn't be before stage 1. But often what ends up happening is you didn't expect it, so your guard is down, so you became vulnerable right away, and then you have to almost like backtrack to a certain extent.
Yeah. By the way, Rabbi Bernath, do you have the ability to take a poll on your?
Yes, I do have the ability to take a poll. Yes.
Okay. Just at the end, I have a question I want to ask everybody, but I just wanted to make sure so we don't have to find something set up now, so we can do it on here.
Yeah. I definitely have the ability. Okay, there's more questions coming in, so we will go to some more questions here. Who would be a mentor? Somebody who whose advice, opinion is a bad word, advice you respect to the point, well, even if you don't like that advice, you'll listen to it?
I think there's two things that are important for a mentor, right? And because you can have mentors for different things. So I think there's two things. A mentor, when it comes to this or whatever it is that you're talking about, like let's say you're in business and you have a business mentor, right? So there's two things that you're going to look for in a business mentor. One, that they themselves have successfully done the thing that you're trying to do. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that they have enough experience having spoken to and spent time with different kinds of people who also, because not everyone does it the same way. The goal of a business mentor is, right, you're trying to have a business that makes money. But there's more than one way of doing that. So if somebody only knows their experience and they only know their way of doing it, that doesn't work either. So the first thing is they need to know what success looks like. They have to have done it themselves. And they also have to have enough experience, enough breadth to understand, the different ways of getting there and what the different ways of getting there are going to have in common. They need to have a wide and a deep understanding of it too. So that's true for a mentor. So a mentor for business is that. It's the same thing for a relationship. A relationship mentor is somebody who, they themselves have a good relationship, which is the issue that Rabbi Bernath and I, a famous book out there now called First Kill All the Marriage Therapists, right? So marriage therapists who've been divorced 3 times and are advising you, your relationship, and they have no idea, right? That's no good.
Well, they can advise you how to be divorced 3 times.
Yeah, if you want to do that. So it's important, the person themselves can, is successful. And have they spent enough time having the kind of academic or objective or third party information that they understand, the bigger picture, not just the way I did it, but the way it, if I understand it well enough to understand there's other ways of coming to that same conclusion. And, so they have enough of that kind of objective information, not just their experience. So it's a mix of subjective and objective experience and information. If the person has both those things, and they understand you, that's the third element, and they understand who you are, that's a good mentor.
Yeah. And the ability to listen, right?
Well, if they understand you, that means they're listening, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. Here's another question that came in. I have a good sense of humor. I have challenges finding someone that makes me laugh. Should I stop looking for that quality and just make myself laugh?
Wow. It's not a quality.
Exactly. Not a quality. And there are some qualities, quote unquote, that you don't need in a relationship. Is this one of them?
Yeah, well, it's not a quality. That's the question of humor is really part of stage one. The way a stage 1 date is going well is when there's some laughing happening. If you overhear there's some laughing happening, I wouldn't survive without humor between me and my spouse. I would not survive without the humor. So,
but what if your bar is so high? I guess that's what this person is saying, that you're just like not laughing. Like I always say, like, the wife of the comedian, the one rolling her eyes.
Yeah, but she loves to roll her eyes.
Right.
Okay. Sure. And I think that's actually your answer. It's not just about, it comes back to the question, do you want to see them or not? Are you pulled to see them or not? If you are, whatever it is, I don't know what it is. There's people who, I have a relative, it's a husband and wife, and like she loves to hate him. She just loves to hate him, right? Rabbi, I remember you were counseling a couple like that, right? That's an audible story.
But it's the nature of their relationship.
Yeah, she loves to complain, and he gives her plenty to complain about, and they love it. It works. She loves to complain. He gives her so you never know what that is. People are weird, all right? People are right. You don't know what it's going to be. So whatever it is that you enjoy, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it. End of story. And it doesn't have to be what everyone else enjoys. I think for many people, the humor is a big part of it. And that's if it comes back to the question, you enjoy it or not? You want to see them or not? And you may be surprised by what you enjoy. You might enjoy something that you never imagined that you would enjoy, and you might be looking for completely the wrong thing. If you're this big comedian, for all we know, you might enjoy just the person who's going to sit there and listen to your jokes. I don't know. Maybe they don't need to make you laugh. Maybe you just enjoy that person. Who knows?
Maybe you're the one who's going to make them laugh. That's a
No,
good
that's what the
point.
question was. But yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you enjoy that. If you enjoy that, it's okay. As long as you don't
Yeah.
come back at the end of the date and saying, I don't really enjoy that. I don't want to see that person. I'm not pulled to see this again. If you're pulled, if you're feeling the pull, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to define for you what pulls you. So
I will say though, one thing, and I don't know if this was the question, but I have seen this quite a bit, so I want to mention it. And that is that there's often, I would say, somebody who has a really good sense of humor, which means they're into comedy and they have a good sense of humor, but they themselves can't deliver that element of humor, is the same as someone who's looking for someone who looks like TV. It's the same. It's the emotional issue compared to the physical issue. If you're looking for the person to have the same sense of humor as the comedian that you watched on TV, it's the same as looking for the person who has the same looks as the person that you saw on TV.
Right, which is basically you're looking for an objective societal third-party standard instead of just accepting what it is that you like. You're accepting what it is that everybody tells you to like.
Exactly. So I don't know if this is your situation, the person who asked the question, but I think it's important to make that differentiation, which means if you're the person who has a good sense of humor and you are very funny, well, then just find someone who likes to laugh at your jokes.
Or likes to roll their eyes.
Or likes to roll their eyes, exactly. But if you're someone who has a certain standard, then you're looking for that other validation or the third party validation. Yeah. Here's another question that came in. By the way, there was a comment somebody made, and I love this comment. Random person might be better than 10 friends. I agree. If it's a difference between 10 friends and one random person, go for the random person. But ideally, again, go for the mentor and the friend. Ideally, but I agree. If it's one versus survey, the one is always better. Here's a nice long question someone just asked. I think there's a big difference between religious dating when you go on 1 or 3 dates, and in those 3 dates, you know so much after the 3rd date, and it's either l'chaim, we get married, or moving along. But with more traditional dating, which is not the wrong way, it's fine. Everyone's entitled to their way. We take time to get to know the person slowly. So my question is, is it better, or is there no right or wrong way? I think too many people are too into the rules of dating and just need to be and let go. What do you say to that?
Yeah, well, that's like, we addressed it before, that it's the same process that happens, and it's a natural process. I'm not saying that you need to force this process. I'm saying that this is kind of what happens, and you can be conscious of it. This is what we see as the natural process. And if you're in like we said, the Shidduch dating context, it's going to happen faster. And if you're in the more Western dating context, it's going to happen slower. And that's okay. Instead of 2 dates, it'll be 2 months, and that's fine. Like we said, it's however you do it. But the idea is, however slow or fast it is, it's going to follow this trajectory. It's a pattern that we see.
There is something that I call dating to death, and a lot of people who date in what you call Western dating, they date to death, where they don't allow the stages to happen. They're just staying in stage 1 for 2 years, thinking that they're in a relationship, but they're not really in a relationship. They just don't want to end a good thing. Like, oh no, I can't move along. We can't be vulnerable. Oh, we can't talk about values. Oh no. This is, let's just have a fun time. Well, at some point that's going to get stale, and then you're going to date to death, where at that point you're not going to have the option. So often, somebody will come to me, okay, how do I revive this? You can't just date somebody in stage 1 for 2 years and expect that when it gets stale that you're going to be able to revive it. That's not how it works.
Or even worse, it becomes such a habit, you can't get rid of it. You just get married by default. And
that's right. Or you keep on doing it over again, where it's the same person, different face.
Yeah.
And that's also a problem. Okay, another question. When people say they just know this person works for them because they completed these stages, or they were not aware of the stages. Yeah. First of all, they're all saying that in hindsight, right? They're all saying, oh, I just knew. Really? If you just knew, why didn't you get married after the first time you looked at them? So hindsight is always 2020.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I told the matchmaker after the second time I met my wife when we were dating. After the second date, I told the matchmaker, "Yeah, this is we're gonna get married." 2 dates.
But I said she didn't tell me that.
Of course, she didn't tell my wife. My wife
Well,
was
the matchmaker has to know what they're doing.
that chick
You
knows
know,
what they're
that's
doing.
part
I
of
was just between me and her. I'm just like, between me and you, like, I'm expecting
Yeah,
this to
well,
work.
that's a good thing. If you have a good matchmaker, you can say those kind of things, and the matchmaker knows when to spill the beans and when not to spill the beans.
So the reason
Yes.
I was able to do that was because I had dated many, many, many times. And some people, and this is very important because there's something called conscious dating and then there's intuitive dating. Okay, so there are many people who don't need this because they're intuitive and they just do this without having to think about it. Okay. And if you look at, if anybody clicks the link and they look at the description I wrote up for who should take this course, right? It starts off, we all know that person who just fell into a relationship and didn't have to think about it too much. And that is the people who have it intuitively, right? And that's cool. And this is not for them. They don't need this, right? I dated for 2 years, 15, 16 different people. My wife, you know, can I share this, honey? Yeah. My wife was like basically the first serious guy that she dated. And she didn't have to go. I spent, you know, the reason I was able to develop the system was because I developed it for me, because I was having such a hard time dating. I was all over the place. I have so many insane stories. I needed to develop a system, and I kind of did. And then I refined it by talking to more people and seeing the things that were in common and the things that were just me, and, you know, seeing what, trying to come up with an equation or something to you know, to help this make sense. But for some people, it doesn't need to make sense. They're intuitive. And for me, you know, the reason I knew after the second date, I just knew, was because I had done it so many times and I had developed my thinking. I spent hours and hours and hours thinking and analyzing so many dates that it became to the point where for me it was intuitive. It took me, you know, a year and a half to get there, of completely focusing on this to the exclusion of almost everything else. You know, it became.
But I like that differentiation between conscious dating and intuitive dating.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
I definitely can relate to that intuitive dating myself, but I've definitely been able to see in the relationships that I've lived vicarious through with other people that I've coached and mentored and counseled, that conscious dating is more common and more needed.
Yeah.
Here's another one. How do you let them know that you're not interested in when they still want to date you?
It's the beauty of having a matchmaker.
Yeah.
You tell the matchmaker and you don't have to deal with it. If you don't have a matchmaker, like, just say the thing, like, be really clear and be honest and be nice. Okay. It's like, just
people
like,
want to know the truth. Come on, don't
please don't dangle. And,
someone just wrote, just be honest.
Just be honest, really.
Yes.
Be nice about it.
Absolutely. Next question. Does having a dating relationship fall apart where things were basically good ever come to the level of trauma?
Anything can be trauma.
Explain that.
What's trauma for one person is not for another. And so if the question is, can that be trauma? Yeah, I mean, there's things a lot less than that can be traumatic. There's many trauma can broken friendship. I mean, you know, John Wick's dog died. There, I let my movie knowledge out of the bag. Anybody who got that one? Okay, so trauma comes in many forms. And anything can be trauma, especially this. You're talking about dating relationship and it falls apart. Yeah, you can have, maybe it's a smaller trauma, maybe it's a big one. I don't know. Trauma needs to be dealt with. It can't be ignored. It can't be shoved under the rug. And I just want to say something about trauma. You know, one of the beautiful insights I got from a book I recently read, and was just talking to somebody about it tonight. And the relationships that hurt, the little traumas that happen, are the things that allow you, you know, you talk about stage 3, the way that, you know, every stage, actually, if somebody has a challenge with dealing with a specific stage, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy to you guys, My most difficult stage was stage 1. That's where I screwed up the most. Okay, because of the very bizarre and weird and strange person that I am. That was the thing that for 99% of people, that's so easy. I'm a very strange person, and I just totally messed up stage 1. I'd be like not really liking that person, but I'd see they have such amazing values, and that's because I'm just, I live in my mind, or at least I used to a lot more than I do now. I used to live entirely in my mind. And so if a person had great values and great qualities, I would just like fall head over heels in respect with them. I'm going to say that again. I would fall head over heels in respect with them. Little wordplay. And that would be it. I would be like taken and like, wait a second, I don't like them. But like I wouldn't realize it. I just didn't register because I lived so much in my mind. Like, oh, I don't like them. Like, but who cares? I don't care if I like them. It didn't matter to me. I didn't get it. It took me a long time to accept, okay, I need to like them. I didn't get that at first, right? I had to learn that. So there are ways of developing each of the 3 stages. If you have trouble with a specific stage, there's ways of developing it. So that I had to learn to accept that part of myself, the part of myself that's involved in that kind of attraction. I needed to learn to accept that and to live in my body and not live in my brain. Okay. And that took a certain amount of training. That's how you train stage 1. There's some other ways there's some other problems that can happen. Infatuation, when there's too much stage 1, it's called infatuation. There's ways of dealing with that. Stage 2 issues, learning how to understand and analyze values and qualities, and learning how to demand respect for yourself and that you have to respect the other person. That's another kind of training. It's another thing that people have trouble with, they can improve on. And there's ways of dealing with that. Stage 3, how do you become better at stage 3 is by having relationship trauma and dealing with it. Every time you have a relationship trauma and you deal with it, you become more able to be sharing yourself with somebody else. You get stronger, you get better, you become able to connect with other people. The more relationship trauma you have, it's a preparation. When you deal with it properly, it's a preparation for you to be able to really share yourself with somebody else.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, so it's terrible when it happens. It's like, you have that relationship and it doesn't work out and it totally destroys you. Happened to me plenty of times. Okay, but that's how you get better at it. That's how you get better at stage 3. It's unfortunately, it's pretty much the only way. If you're not good at stage 3, you will get better at it by letting yourself get hurt, dealing with it, letting yourself get hurt, deal with it, and eventually you'll be able to connect. It'll work.
Yeah. Here's another question that just came in. How do you explain just not feeling comfortable with a person, even if they check off a lot of the boxes? Is it me? Is it intuition telling me something? What do I trust? What don't I trust?
Yeah, I would, that's a real, if you want to come on and like dig into it, that's a mentor.
Yeah,
you need to ask questions about that. What you mean?
That would take time to unpack. I agree.
You have to unpack that. Your gut is an important tool, by the way. Like you have to trust your gut. You have to trust your gut, that your gut is trying to tell you something. And you need to figure out what that is. When you say you're not comfortable, you can't just say yes or no to a relationship because of a vague feeling. Okay, you need to figure out, that's the conscious stating part, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure out what you're feeling, like what's going on. What you want to answer that question, what's the problem? Maybe it's like a random thing in your brain that's just a misperception that you need to correct, and there's really nothing wrong. And you're not comfortable for that reason, and you just need to get it out there with someone and like, okay, this is okay, because of a trauma or because of a value or because of an opinion or like something that's in your head. Or maybe there's a real issue that you're not comfortable with and you need another person to unpack that with you. So for me, it's there, I would say, sit down with somebody and actually unpack it and figure out what it is and figure out if it's something that you need to deal with or fix or break up the relationship or continue the relationship based on that, or but make sure you figure out what it is. Don't leave it there, because your gut is telling you that something's happening and you need to figure out what your gut is trying to tell you.
needing mentoring or coaching is not a bad thing. It's very normal, especially, look, nobody gave us the tools. A lot of us weren't raised. We don't even have good role models for relationships that we grew up with. I mean, it's okay. And especially if you feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, the best thing to do is just to be able to nip it in the bud and to be able to figure it out and move on. And you probably need some other person to be able to help you with that. Here's a nice long question. You mentioned this numerous times in classes and lectures, I guess referring to me. I find many people say, yes, they want to meet, but they're not ready. Meaning you need to be in the mindset that you're dating for marriage. I've spoken to many women who are so consumed into work that they don't have time to date. I think another class on preparing people to date, marry, and understand their priorities. What do you say to men and women who are not ready fully, but only fool others by putting on a front?
Okay, here we go, Rabbi. Say the thing. Say it.
Say the thing.
Say your line, Rabbi. Say your line. Come on. You know your line? You have the line.
Which line?
The line. Don't clog the system.
Thank you.
That's your line. Make
Thank
room
you.
for everybody else.
Work, career, and relationships are two very big things, and often they cannot be in the same space at the same time. If you are focusing on one, you're gonna have to negotiate. If your non-negotiable is career, then you're probably gonna have to negotiate on relationships because you just don't have time for it. People want to be in a relationship. When I set somebody up and then I find out, oh, well, I'm busy here, I'm busy there, I'm busy there. What do you mean? It takes time to get into a relationship. You need to be able to say, this is the most important thing that I should be doing with my adult life. This is to the exclusion of everything else. Right now in my life, it is the number one thing. Oh, I've been hurt. Oh, it's difficult. Oh, it hasn't happened yet. Okay. But if it's the most important thing and you really want it that badly, it's going to happen. But you're going to have to negotiate on a lot of other things in your life, career included. You can't expect to be working late at the office and not have time to date. I'm not saying don't work. What I'm saying is, where's your head? Is your head in, I want to be in a serious relationship? I want to get married. Okay, I won't use the big M word, but I am going to use the big M word because we're going to say the thing tonight. Or is my head in like, well, if it happens, it'll be good. But yeah, you know, maybe it won't happen. Maybe that, I got friends, I got things to do. Of course, you're not going to get into a relationship. Of course, you're not going to get married. You have things to do. There's more important things to do. So I appreciate what this person just said. And I've said it so many times, and I can't stress it enough. As Rabbi Yosh said, when I say, don't clog the system, it's okay. You can say, I'm not ready to get into a relationship now. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to binge watch Netflix. I'm not ready for relationships. Okay.
Yeah. All right. More?
There's lots of questions coming in. What about ambivalence?
Sorry?
What about ambivalence?
Ambivalence. I mean, it's a little vague. What do you mean?
I know.
What about ambivalence? What about it?
This is the question. What about ambivalence? What is that?
Ambivalence?
Maybe somebody was Googling words having to do with relationships and ambivalence came up.
Okay. I mean, I've been ambivalent. Ambivalence is when, to me, the word ambivalence is when at any of those three stages, when you're not ready to, to accept it.
Yeah.
To accept what it is that you really want. And you start, like I've experienced that with myself, with other people. I don't know. I like him. I don't like him. And I like him. And I also don't like him. And I'm not sure. I'm not this, not that. It's like, yeah, that's part of it. And, it's part of the process of conscious dating is breaking down what's going on and being able to say, what you're attracted to might not be what you thought you were attracted to. And you just need to accept it. It's okay. And that's why we stick to the questions. Are you attracted? Do you respect?
Yeah.
Right.
Stay on the path. Stay focused on what's important.
Yeah, stay focused on that. And if you're ambivalent because there's things you like about them, and you want to be in a relationship and you don't want to let it, like, just, that's okay, get it out there. But it's learning to let those things go and not be ambivalent. Is just, we have to be really clear. And that's part of what conscious dating is or in the main course, we're going to have journals and a process that you can go through after a date to analyze where you're at with the 3 stages, and to analyze what's going on, and then to carry through from one failed relationship to the next, hopefully successful relationship. No, I'm saying, like, once the relationship doesn't work out, a dating doesn't work out, what things do you take on to the next one to build your knowledge, to build your ideas, so that you can get out of ambivalence and you can start defining more and more closely the truth of what you're looking for, and not be ambivalent about it. Like saying, I've tried this 3 times already. I can't be with someone who's like this, and I need to accept that, not be ambivalent about it, right? And so you hopefully build up that knowledge base with that journal. That's for people who are dating. That's part of that course, and that's how you deal with it. Is like so.
I'm going to take these last 3 questions here, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening. One was a very interesting one. That is, it's difficult to negotiate when you have kids. How does that work with regards to relationships? It's a very good question, and a very complicated one, and it's true, because, like, it's easy for me to say career, but kids, it becomes a lot more complicated when you are the primary caregiver for children, and you also want to get into a relationship.
It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And therefore, you need to accept that the person who you date, that's going to be successful, they need to accept it, because for you it's non-negotiable, and they have to be okay with it. And they're gonna, if they can be flexible and it works for them, and they're cool about it, they're willing to accept that that's not negotiable for you, then it can be fine. So don't negotiate. Yeah, that's a non-negotiable. Don't negotiate it. The person is going to have to, if they can work with that, good. If they can't, let it go. Or until they're ready to do that, or it's definitely a non-negotiable.
Somebody else asks here, can you please remind us why get married? And I'm kind of laughing inside, because I just finished a year of writing a book called Why Bother Getting Married?
That's right. I've been working on that too.
And yeah, I mean, it's why get married? Rabbi Yosh, why get married?
Go buy the book.
Oh, come on, that's easy.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to, what is the purpose of marriage? Throw it in the chat, everybody. What's the purpose of marriage?
Let's see. I want to hear that. I want to hear, what is the purpose of marriage? I love that.
It's a mitzvah. Okay. Keep throwing it in. It's a great sales. Yeah, thank you.
I did not. It's a real question someone asked. I did not try to, that was not set up at all.
Growth.
I like that.
Life companion.
I don't want to be alone, someone just said. Creation. Growth.
To have a
fulfilling life. To be matched up with your soulmate. Oh, so romantic. Partner in crime.
Yeah. That person obviously direct messaged it. They don't want to know they don't want everyone to know they're a criminal.
That's right.
To become shalem. So yeah, everyone is saying a similar thing, right? And the way it was expressed by David Schnarch, who's a really fascinating therapist, is it's the marriage is the gym in which you grow as a human. Or another, this is highly offensive to many of you here. But this is what, David Schnarch, again, a great quote, is that, I mean, you say this all the time. It's that, like, it's, if you're not in a long-term committed relationship, then in some way you're handicapped, emotionally handicapped. There's certain ways that you can only develop yourself. There's certain muscles that you can only develop through a long-term and committed relationship. Yeah. Right. And it's harsh. I mean, it's
well, it's the ability, it's also the ability to be properly differentiated, right?
Yeah, well, that's all part of it. That's part of the process. But without getting to the details. So why get married? It's like there are parts of you that you can't develop without another person. Just like there are certain kind of exercises or trainings that you can't do on your own. You need a spotter to lift, to lift weights, and you need a partner to play tennis. There are some ways of things of development. There are some corners of your soul that you can't light up, some dark corners of your soul that you can't light up without another person who's around you all the time, who's committed to you, who you can be open with. There's just things that you will never deal with unless you're in that long-term committed relationship. And so that it's ultimately the gym where you grow as a human and where you become your fullest, truest self, and they do too. And that's really special. And that's it. That's the value. Everyone seems to be saying it. Everyone's on the same page about it. So
Yeah.
that's why you get married.
I mean, there's a lot more to it because I couldn't just write that in the book, but yes.
Yeah. Cliff's notes for the book.
I'm going to take this one last question here for a number of reasons, primarily because the Habs are in the third part of the game, and I'd like to see the end of the game. Well, we had this planned well before the Habs made it into the second round of the playoffs, and I wanted to honor.
Nobody predicted they'd make the second round. Oh, they're winning 3-1. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So this one is: years ago, I met a man who had everything going for him. He fell for me like a ton of bricks. Even after 6 dates, though I liked him a great deal, I had no romantic feelings for him. A friend later told me I should examine what is wrong with me that I didn't fall for him. What are your thoughts?
No. 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 It's really simple. Everything you're saying in that story points to infatuation.
Yeah.
On his part. Fell for you like a ton of bricks, and that you were not really into him. Okay. When two magnets are attracted to each other, they're both attracted to each other. That's the literal definition of attraction. Attraction, when you enjoy someone else, it's also because you're enjoying the fact that they enjoy you. So you're enjoying yourself, them, and you're enjoying the fact that they're enjoying you, right? It has to go both ways. If you're sitting in a date and you're having a great time and you can see that the other person is just not into you the same way, in a normal situation, you're not going to be very excited about that, because you want that person you want to see that the other person is really enjoying themselves and they're also into you the same way, right?
Exactly.
And so what happens when what you're describing, one person falls really hard and the other person doesn't, that's usually what we call infatuation. And you should absolutely not be in that relationship if that's the case, and it's okay. You don't have to, there's not necessarily anything wrong with you. If you're, if you have major issues and traumas and problems, if you never fall for anybody, if you never like anybody, if you're not attracted to anybody, then yeah, it's not just about him, right? Then you need to get that looked at, right? You need to talk to somebody. If you're never attracted to anyone, if you never fall for anyone, if you're not into anything, if it never works, and it's not just him, then there's all kinds of, there could be things in your brain, there could be like neurological problems, there could be emotional, there's so many things that could be causing that, right? And you need to figure out what's going on, because it's just a natural human thing. Unless you're, they have names for it now: asexuality, incel. I mean, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. I mean, it's not like it's not a healthy human thing. Some people have there are problems in the brain that don't allow a person to develop relationships. And if that's the problem, it's a generalized problem, then that person might be right, and you have to figure something out. But if it's just this guy and you've been attracted to people before and you have normal things in relationships, and there's you have normal human feelings about people, and you're just not into him and he's into you way too much, like you said, a ton of bricks, in that case, that's textbook infatuation, which we will give, there's another class that Rabbi Bernath has given about that. And it is cool. You were doing the right thing by exiting the relationship, and also ultimately the better thing for him too, because.
Thank you, Rabbi Yosh. I just made you co-host, so you can make the poll yourself if you want to do that end of class poll that you said you wanted to.
Yeah, I just want some feedback because I'm still collecting my feedback.
You have the ability to make a poll there?
I'm trying to look.
It should be on the bottom of your screen.
Is it? I don't see.
Okay, I can make the poll for you. What's the question?
Sure, let me, I'll type it to you.
Okay. While Rabbi Yosh is typing that to me, I want to just remind you that this, we're going to be doing this in depth. We're going to be going through this experientially. There's actually, I just checked while Rabbi Yosh was talking, and a number of you have already signed up for that course. And there's only 3 spots left for the women's and about 14 left for the men. I'm going to put those back in the chat again if you want to take a look at them. You can see all the details, each of the sessions, what you should expect from it, what we're going to be doing with it. It's going to be brand new. I don't know how often, if you know, when the next time we're going to offer this. We're offering it for a very specific reason, and we're really encouraging you to be part of it, especially if you are Shidduch dating or you are, you know, in that kind of matchmaker-based dating. It's really, really important. Okay. And I'm going to do this poll for Rabbi Yosh, and then we will end. Should the answers be anonymous?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a second. Sorry, 1 second, everybody. Trying to get to this as fast as I can. Okay. Anonymous. Okay. Sorry. Okay. I think I got them all. And the question. Save. Okay, you can now see the poll.
This is my Oprah Barack Obama. How did it go?
Exactly. You want your other validation.
You know, I need to know.
But be honest. Be honest.
Be honest. I want to know if it's not very, and there should be, you know, it's anonymous, and we need feedback, and we expect that not everyone's going to enjoy or appreciate everything, which is totally natural and fine. We just need to, you know, it's very important for us to be able to improve the experience. Also to know, you know, whether we need to carry it forward or whether we're barking up the wrong tree. We need to know. We need honesty. Okay.
Looks like interesting responses coming in. Okay, with that, I wish you all a fantastic evening. You know where to find me. You can email me if you have any more questions. I try to get to all of them, especially in a timely fashion. Sometimes it's hard, but I try to. If you have any questions about the course or anything of the upcoming events, please message me as well. I will make sure to send you all the recording of tonight. And that's what I have to say for the evening. Have a good night.
Enjoy the game.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.